Have you ever been looked down on just because of how you dress or where you come from? Have you ever walked into a place where you didn't belong and felt the weight of every judging eye? Elena had, and what happened to her inside that glittering jewelry store would haunt her for weeks until she returned. Not to buy a single necklace, but to buy the entire store in cash. But this isn't just a story about revenge, it's a story about dignity, about how quickly the world can change when the tables turn. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and leave a like if you love stories where karma hits back harder than expected. Because what you're about to hear will leave you speechless. And maybe, just maybe, make you think twice before judging someone by their clothes. The street outside shimmered with a faint drizzle, each droplet catching the light from the jewelry store like a diamond falling from the sky. Behind the thick glass door, everything looked perfect. Golden chandeliers, velvet-lined counters, and a gentle melody that whispered wealth and exclusivity. But outside that door stood Elena Morales, clutching the strap of her worn leather bag as if it held her courage inside. She hesitated. Her reflection stared back at her, a tired woman in a faded gray coat, her hair tied back, her shoes old and damp. For a brief second she almost turned away. But then she remembered her daughter's smile, the way Sophia's eyes had lit up when she'd pointed to that small silver necklace in the store window weeks ago. A tiny heart pendant. Simple. Elegant. Maybe one day, Sophia had said. And that maybe had become Elena's mission. She'd worked extra shifts, cleaned office floors until midnight, saved every coin she could. And today, she had enough. Not much, but enough. She took a deep breath and pushed the door open. A small bell chimed. Immediately, silence followed. Two women behind the counter looked up. Their eyes, sharp and assessing, scanned her from head to toe, and in that 1 second, Elena knew what they saw. A woman who didn't belong here. Still, she smiled. "Good afternoon," she said softly. "I'd like to see that silver necklace, the one with the heart pendant, please." The taller woman, blonde and perfectly manicured, exchanged a smirk with her co-worker. "That one?" she asked. "It's quite expensive, dear." Elena nodded. "I know. I've been saving for it." "Oh?" The woman tilted her head, her tone dripping with disbelief. "It's from our premium line. Maybe you'd prefer something in the clearance section?" Her co-worker giggled. Elena's stomach twisted. "No, thank you. I'd just like to see that one." The taller woman sighed, then leaned forward with a forced smile. "Listen, we've had issues with window shoppers before. I'm sure you understand." "I'm not just looking," Elena whispered. "I can pay." The woman's smile vanished. She called over her shoulder, "Mr. Hale, can you come here for a moment?" From the back room emerged the manager, a tall man in a tailored suit with an expression that carried both arrogance and boredom. "What's going on?" "This lady insists on handling the premium jewelry," the woman said, emphasizing lady as though it were an insult. "But I'm not convinced she's serious." The manager frowned. "Do you have an appointment?" Elena blinked. "An appointment? I just wanted to buy—" He raised a hand. "Ma'am, this establishment caters to a specific clientele. We can't just let anyone handle expensive pieces without verification." Elena's voice cracked. "Verification? I just want to buy a gift for my daughter. I have the money right here." A small crowd was forming now. Two wealthy customers pretending to browse but watching closely, enjoying the scene. One of them chuckled under his breath. The humiliation burned hot in her chest. The manager sighed impatiently. "Security, please escort this woman out." The guard appeared almost instantly, broad-shouldered and expressionless. "Ma'am, please step outside." "I haven't done anything wrong," Elena protested, her voice trembling. "Ma'am, don't make a scene," the woman said sweetly. "People are watching." And they were. As the guard gently but firmly took her by the arm, she looked once more at the necklace behind the glass. It shimmered mockingly under the light, so close yet impossibly far. Outside, the cold air hit her like a slap. She stood on the wet sidewalk, her face pale, her hands shaking. Through the window, she could still see the employees laughing, pretending not to. She whispered to herself, "You'll remember me." The rain began to fall harder. Elena pulled her coat tight and started walking. Each step echoed with quiet rage, each tear swallowed by the rain. She didn't know it yet, but the world had just handed her a reason to rise. And she would. Because the woman they laughed at today would be the one laughing tomorrow. The apartment was silent except for the steady rhythm of rain tapping against the window pane. Elena sat at the kitchen table, her fingers tracing the rim of a chipped cup of tea she couldn't afford to sweeten. Her reflection in the window was ghostly. Tired eyes, sunken cheeks, a woman weathered by time and disappointment. Across the room, her daughter Sophia was asleep on the couch, still in her school uniform. Her notebook lay open beside her, filled with sketches of jewelry, rings, bracelets, necklaces, dreams on paper. Elena smiled sadly. "You always dream too big, my love," she whispered. But deep inside, she didn't want her daughter to stop dreaming. She wanted her to have everything. Elena looked around their small apartment. The peeling wallpaper, the flickering light bulb, the silence that hung too heavy. It wasn't just poverty that weighed on her shoulders. It was humiliation. That store, those looks, those whispers, they replayed in her mind like a cruel song she couldn't turn off. She opened the closet, searching for the old box she hadn't touched in years. It sat beneath a stack of blankets, gathering dust. A wooden box, carved with delicate roses. A wedding gift from her late husband, Victor. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside were yellowed photographs, a faded watch, and a sealed envelope with her name written in Victor's handwriting. The ink had bled slightly over time, but the message was clear. For Elena. Only open if you truly have nothing left. She hesitated. "Nothing left," she murmured. "That's today." The envelope held a single silver key and a note. "If you're reading this, I didn't make it home. Go to the storage unit. Locker 13B. What's inside belongs to you and Sophia. Don't be afraid to use it. You'll understand when you see it." Her heart pounded. Storage unit? She had no idea Victor owned one. The next morning, she took the earliest bus across town to the industrial district, a place of rusted gates and forgotten dreams. The wind howled between old warehouses as she found the one labeled 13B. The lock was old, but the key slid in perfectly. Click, the door groaned open and a cloud of dust rose into the sunlight. Inside, under a dirty sheet, was a black suitcase. She dragged it into the light and flipped the latches. What she saw made her knees buckle. Stacks of $100 bills. Neat bundles wrapped in faded rubber bands. There were papers, too. Documents, property deeds, receipts for jewelry, even a gold pocket watch she'd never seen before. Her trembling hands found another envelope on top. She opened it slowly. "Elena, I worked for men who dealt in shadows. I thought I could escape, but I was wrong. I hid this money because I wanted you and Sophia to have a choice. The kind of choice life never gave us. If anything happens to me, use it. Live. Start over. And don't let anyone make you feel small." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "You knew," she whispered. "You always knew." For the first time in years, Elena laughed. Not from joy, but disbelief. Fate, it seemed, had given her one last chance. She packed the suitcase and walked out into the sunlight. The same woman who had been thrown out of a jewelry store 2 days ago was gone. In her place walked someone stronger, quieter, but with eyes that now burned with purpose. She looked up at the city skyline and whispered, "You wanted to see me beg. Now you'll see me buy." Because Elena wasn't going to buy just a necklace anymore. She was going to buy everything they said she couldn't have. The sky over downtown shimmered a pale gold that morning, the kind of morning that pretends to be calm before something extraordinary happens. The jewelry store stood there as elegant as ever, its glass front glistening with arrogance, every diamond behind it still winking in quiet mockery. But this time, the woman standing on the sidewalk wasn't the same Elena who had been thrown out weeks ago. Her worn coat was gone. In its place, she wore a tailored black dress, subtle but powerful. Her hair was neatly pinned, her makeup soft yet deliberate. and on her shoulder rested a sleek leather handbag, the same kind the store's preferred clients carried. But what no one could see, what only she knew, was what the bag contained. $68,000 in cash, neatly stacked, enough to silence every smirk she had endured. She took a deep breath. "For Sophia," she whispered, before pushing open the door. The familiar bell chimed again, and once more heads turned. But this time, no one laughed. The same woman behind the counter, the one with the crimson lipstick, looked up. Her smile froze for just a second, a flicker of recognition flashing in her eyes, but she quickly covered it up. "Good morning," she said sweetly. "How may I help you today?" Elena returned the smile, her tone calm, almost kind. "I'd like to see some necklaces." "Of course." The woman guided her toward the premium display case, unaware of the storm brewing behind Elena's calm eyes. The glass gleamed, and there it was, the very same heart pendant that had once been the reason for her humiliation. Elena stared at it quietly, remembering every cruel word, every laugh. "That one," she said softly. "Ah, yes, beautiful choice," the woman said. "It's one of our best sellers. Would you like to try it on?" Elena nodded. "Please?" As the woman took out the necklace, Elena noticed her reflection in the glass. Poised, confident, transformed. But behind that reflection lingered the ghost of who she once was. The poor cleaner, the widow, the invisible one. She took a deep breath and looked the saleswoman straight in the eye. "You don't remember me, do you?" The woman blinked. "Should I?" "I was here a few weeks ago," Elena said. Her voice was quiet but razor-sharp. "You refused to let me touch this necklace. You said people like me didn't belong here." The woman froze, the color draining from her face. I don't recall that, ma'am." "Oh, I'm sure you don't," Elena interrupted gently. "But I do." A faint buzz filled the room. Other customers began glancing their way, sensing tension. The manager emerged from the back, his fake smile already in place. "Is there a problem, ladies?" Elena turned to him. "Actually, yes. I'd like to buy this necklace, and everything else in this display." The manager blinked. "Everything?" She nodded. "All of it. Ma'am, that's quite a large purchase. Perhaps we can process a credit check or arrange a transfer." "No." Elena placed the black handbag on the counter and unzipped it. The sound was crisp, slicing through the murmurs. Inside was the money, stacks upon stacks of $100 bills, bound and immaculate. Gasps rippled through the store. The saleswoman's hands trembled. "Is that cash?" Elena smiled faintly. "It is, legal, counted, and ready. Shall I pay now?" The manager's eyes widened. You can't just bring cash?" she said, tilting her head. "Why not? You said this store was for a certain clientele. Tell me, Mr. Hale, does cash not make me one of them?" He stammered. Of course, ma'am, it's just, we need to verify large transactions." Elena interrupted again, this time with a calm edge that cut deeper than any anger could. "Verify all you want, but remember me. Remember the woman you had thrown out because she looked poor." The silence that followed was suffocating. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. She continued, her voice low, deliberate. "You humiliated me in front of strangers. You treated me like I was invisible. But I learned something that day. Your kind only respects money. So I brought you what you respect most." The room stayed frozen for a long, trembling moment. Then, slowly, the manager forced a smile. "My deepest apologies, ma'am. There must have been a misunderstanding. We value every customer." "Do you?" she asked, stepping closer. "Then you'll have no problem selling me the entire collection. In cash." The saleswoman looked pale now, her lipstick smudged where she'd bitten her lip. Of course, right away," she stammered. As they began wrapping each piece in velvet boxes, Elena watched in silence. Each click of the jewelry case sounded like justice. The same store that had thrown her out was now bowing before her. When they finished, the manager cleared his throat. "Would you like me to arrange delivery for these, ma'am?" Elena smiled coldly. No, I'll take them myself. I've carried heavier things in life. And with that, she gathered the bags, turned toward the door, and paused just long enough to look back at the woman behind the counter. By the way, she said softly, you were right. That necklace is expensive. But the look on your face right now? That's priceless. She walked out, leaving behind stunned silence and the faint scent of her perfume. Victory and vengeance intertwined. As the door closed, the bell chimed again. But this time it didn't sound like mockery. It sounded like the end of something cruel and the beginning of something new. But what Elena didn't know was that her act of revenge would soon uncover one last secret, a truth that would change everything she thought she knew about her late husband. The jewelry store was silent long after Elena left. The faint chime of the door echoed like a confession in an empty church. The employees stood frozen, the saleswoman pale as paper, the manager sweating beneath his perfect suit. They had just sold $500,000 worth of jewelry in a single morning, all in cash, to the woman they once threw out like garbage. But for Elena, the moment wasn't about victory. As she walked down the sidewalk, her heels clicking on the wet pavement, something inside her still trembled. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't even pride. It was a strange emptiness, the kind that comes after the storm, when you realize revenge doesn't heal everything. The city around her moved in slow motion. Cars honked, lights flashed, people hurried by, and yet none of it touched her. She carried the weight of velvet boxes in her hands, but the heavier burden was invisible, the truth she didn't yet know. That night Elena placed the jewelry on her kitchen table, one box after another. Sophia's eyes widened in disbelief. "Mama, what did you do?" Elena smiled faintly. "I bought what they said I couldn't." Sophia touched the heart-shaped necklace with trembling fingers. "You bought all of this? How?" Elena hesitated. "Your father left us something, enough to make things right." Sophia looked up, her face glowing with innocence and confusion. "I thought Dad didn't have any money." Elena sat down, brushing a lock of hair from her daughter's face. "Neither did I, until I found it." The room fell silent for a moment. Outside, thunder rolled over the rooftops. Sophia frowned. "Do you think he stole it?" The question hit Elena like a blade. She opened her mouth to deny it, but the letter's words echoed in her mind. "I worked for men who dealt in shadows." Her breath caught. She tried to push the thought away, but it stuck like a splinter in her chest. That night, as Sophia slept, Elena couldn't. She sat in the dark, staring at the jewelry spread across the table, shining, beautiful, and suddenly sinister. The necklace, the rings, the bracelets. They didn't look like blessings anymore. They looked like evidence. She poured herself a glass of water, her hands shaking. And that's when she noticed something strange. One of the jewelry certificates inside the box had a company logo at the top. She frowned. It wasn't the jewelry brand. It was something else. A corporate stamp. Hale Enterprises. Her blood ran cold. Hale, the name of the store's manager. She picked up another certificate. The same stamp, another, the same. "What the hell?" she whispered. A creeping realization formed in her mind. The money, the suitcase, the documents her husband left behind. They weren't just random assets. They were connected to this store, to him. She pulled out the old letter again, reading it under the dim kitchen light. The words took on a different tone now. "I worked for men who dealt in shadows. I wanted out, but I couldn't. If anything happens, what's theirs will become yours." Her pulse raced. What's theirs? The jewelry, the store, the money. It all belonged to the same people. People her husband once worked for. People dangerous enough to make him fear for his life. Suddenly her triumph felt like a trap. She had walked into their world again, flaunted the money that wasn't supposed to exist. And now she was visible. Her phone buzzed on the table. An unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. A man's voice, deep and calm. "Mrs. Morales? Who is this?" "You made quite an impression today," the voice said. "Buying out the store with cash. Impressive." Her heart stopped. "How do you know?" Let's just say, the voice interrupted smoothly, you're not the only one who knows about your husband's little legacy. You've just reopened old accounts, and certain people don't like that. The line went dead. Elena's hand trembled as she set the phone down. The room seemed to shrink around her. The faint hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the clock, all of it felt distant. Her mind raced. Who was he? How did he know? And then the worst thought hit her. Sophia. She grabbed her coat and rushed to her daughter's room. Sophia was still asleep, breathing softly. Elena sat beside her, brushing her hair gently, whispering, "I'll fix this, I promise." But even as she said it, she wasn't sure how. The next morning, she returned to the jewelry store. This time, not as a customer, but as a woman searching for answers. When she walked in, the same saleswoman froze mid-sentence. The manager, Hale, stepped forward nervously. "Mrs. Morales, I hope everything was satisfactory yesterday." "Tell me," Elena interrupted. "Where does this jewelry come from?" He blinked. "Excuse me?" "These certificates," she said, throwing them on the counter. "They all bear your company's name, Hale Enterprises." "Why?" The color drained from his face. That's just our supplier." "Don't lie to me," Elena snapped. Her voice filled the entire store. "My husband worked for you, didn't he?" The manager hesitated, glancing toward the door as if deciding whether to run. "I don't know what you're talking about. I found his letters, his money, the jewelry, everything he hid." "You knew him, didn't you?" The silence was answer enough. Finally, Hale sighed, lowering his voice. "You shouldn't have come back, Mrs. Morales. Victor wasn't supposed to tell you any of this." Her blood ran cold. "So it's true." He nodded slowly. "Your husband helped us move assets, discreetly. But when he tried to leave, things got complicated. The money he left you, that wasn't his to take." Elena's voice trembled. "And if I refuse to give it back?" Hale leaned forward, eyes dark and cold. "Then someone else will come for it." Outside, thunder cracked again, louder this time, because Elena was about to learn that revenge had a price, and someone was already collecting it. Night carved the city into islands of light. From Elena's window, the streets looked like veins, thin streams of gold pulsing through a body that refused to sleep. She couldn't either. The phone call, the certificates, Hale's cold eyes, each detail circled her mind like vultures waiting for the last breath of a secret. She laid out Victor's documents once more, piece by piece, the way you lay cards when you're trying to cheat fate. Deeds, receipts, certificates stamped with Hale Enterprises, a ledger written in Victor's tight handwriting, and, tucked inside a cracked leather notebook, something she hadn't noticed before. A yellowed business card with a handwritten number and 3 words beneath it. "If it breaks, call." She dialed. A woman answered. Steady voice. No surprise. "I've been expecting this call," she said. "You're Elena." "Who are you?" Elena asked. "Someone your husband trusted when he realized the men he worked for couldn't be trusted." "My name is Marta Duval, investigative journalist." The name stirred a memory. Elena had seen it in the paper years ago, beside an article about money laundering cases that vanished before trial. "You already know about Hale," Marta said. "But what you don't know is why Victor died. He wasn't in a random crash. The brakes on his car had been tampered with. He was due to meet me that night. He never arrived." Silence ate the room. Elena's heart pounded. A slow, heavy drumbeat. "You're sure? I don't say things I can't prove. Your husband sent me copies of documents. Then he disappeared. The copies helped, but not enough. The originals would close the loop." Marta paused. "Do you have them?" Elena looked at the table, at her husband's handwriting, at the signatures, at the numbers that formed a map of hidden corridors. "I have everything." "Then you have a choice," Marta said softly. "You can run, or you can end this." The next morning was not gentle. Rain scraped at the windows. The city shivered. Elena dressed simply, tied back her hair, and slipped Victor's notebook into her bag. She kissed Sophia's forehead and whispered, "I'll be back before dinner." She didn't know if it was a promise or a prayer. The jewelry store looked cleaner than guilt should allow. Hale was already at the counter, fake smile polished, hands folded like a man who'd built a life on perfectly timed apologies. "Mrs. Morales," he said, the courtesy brittle. "What a surprise!" "No surprises," Elena replied, placing the notebook on the glass. "Just endings." His eyes flicked to the notebook. He recognized it. She saw the fear dart behind his pupils like a fish sensing the hook. "I don't know what you think you're doing. I'm doing what Victor started." She opened the book to a page marked with a red thread. "This is your shipping ledger. Here are the pieces you moved off invoice. Here are the cash buybacks under shell names. And here," she said, tapping the margin, "are the transfers to the foundation you brag about in the press. Clean on top, dirty underneath." He swallowed. "Those are wild accusations." "They're math," she said, "and math doesn't get nervous." Two men in black coats were browsing nearby. Hale tilted his chin almost imperceptibly, and they drifted closer, gravity in human form. Elena felt the weight of their presence, the taste of danger turning metallic on her tongue. She didn't step back. "You think walking in here with a notebook makes you powerful?" Hale whispered. "You think cash makes you untouchable? You're out of your depth." "Maybe," Elena said, "but you're out of time." She slipped her phone from her pocket and pressed a button. On the counter screen, a waveform pulsed. A recording. "You shouldn't have come back. Victor helped us move assets. The money he left you wasn't his to take." His voice, captured yesterday, cool and careless. Color drained from his face. The men in black stiffened. One reached subtly toward his coat. The air thinned. "Before you try anything stupid," Elena said, "know this. A complete copy of everything. This notebook, the certificates, yesterday's recording, was sent at 8 a.m. to Marta Duval, to 2 attorneys, and to a detective who owes my husband the decency of truth." She nodded toward the front door. "If I don't walk out of here in 10 minutes, they release it all. Names, sums, accounts. You'll be standing in front of lights brighter than these chandeliers." Something broke in Hale's posture. Not anger, calculation. The men eased back, leashed by the math of consequences. "What do you want?" he asked, voice flat. "For you to sign this," Elena said, sliding a folder across the glass. Inside was a transfer agreement drafted by Marta's lawyer overnight. It wasn't for the store's inventory. It was for the store itself, the company that owned it. Its brand, its lease, its books, with a clause requiring an immediate forensic audit by independent firms and a binding commitment to cooperate with authorities. Hale laughed once. It sounded like a cough. "You're insane." "Maybe." Elena's eyes didn't blink. "Or maybe I'm the only honest person who has set foot in this place in years." He stared at her, then at the men behind him, then at the rain beyond the glass. Measuring, measuring. Finally, his shoulders lowered. "If I sign this, they'll come for me." "They already are," Elena said. "The difference is whether you arrive with counsel or with handcuffs." Minutes later, the pen scratched across paper. The sound was small, but it cut louder than thunder. When he finished, Hale pushed the folder back with a hand that trembled. "Get out," he muttered. "Take your victory and get out." Elena closed the folder. "This isn't victory," she said. "This is surgery." Outside, the rain had softened into a hush. Marta waited by a gray sedan, umbrella tilted, eyes alert. Elena handed her the folder. He signed. Marta scanned the document, then looked up with something like grief and respect braided together. "Your husband would have liked you," she said. "He tried to win without hurting anyone. That's why he lost. You cut clean." "I don't want to be a knife," Elena said. "Knives don't either," Marta replied. "They just are." By evening, the city began to change shape around the truth. A quiet swarm of auditors arrived at the store with clipboards and questions that didn't blink. An unmarked car parked across the street and didn't move for hours. Hale left through the back door, swallowed by a different kind of rain. Sophia helped Elena arrange the velvet boxes on their table again, but they didn't look sinister now. They looked like artifacts pulled from a shipwreck, evidence of a storm survived. "Is it over?" Sophia asked. "Nothing that matters is ever over," Elena said, pulling her close. "But it's turned. Days became weeks. News never said her name, but it said enough. Luxury chain faces audit amid laundering probe. Quietly, the transfer finalized. The store reopened under a new sign. Heart and Sophia. A small heart in brushed silver, the kind that starts as a promise and becomes a vow. On opening day, the chandeliers still glowed, but the music was different, warmer, human. The counter was staffed by people who said please and meant it. A woman in a worn coat stepped hesitantly through the door, eyes flitting to the prices, then down to her shoes as if apologizing for them. Elena walked from behind the counter and smiled the way you smile at someone you've been waiting to meet all your life. "Welcome," she said. "You're in the right place." The woman's shoulders eased. I'm just looking." "Look as long as you like," Elena replied. "And when you're ready, we'll be here." Later, she stood alone beneath the chandelier. She lifted the heart-shaped necklace, Sophia's, into the light. It glowed softly, not like a trophy, but like a lighthouse. She remembered the first day. The laughter, the rain, the door that closed like a sentence. She remembered Victor's letter, the suitcase, the call, the fear. Revenge had been the spark. Justice was the fire that followed. But the thing that warmed her now wasn't either of those. It was dignity, simple and unashamed, a quiet truth that finally belonged to her. On the wall near the register, a small frame held a single line in Victor's hand. "If you have to be seen for what you stood up to." Elena locked the door that night with steady hands. Outside, the city breathed. Inside, the light lingered a moment longer, as if reluctant to leave. She whispered to the empty room, to the past that had finally loosened its grip, "I forgive you." And for the first time in years, the silence answered back with peace. End.